Only the wrathful humans showed up to save the day. The stars had always felt safe to the people of the Galactic Concord. Their ships moved like gentle dancers across the black. Their weapons fired clean, precise beams that disabled rather than destroyed. Their leaders spoke in calm voices, even when worlds burned. They believed peace could fix anything. They believed talking could stop machines that only wanted to eat planets. Then, the remnant forge woke up. Nobody knew who built the forge long ago. Some said it was a weapon left behind by a species that died out. Others said it was an experiment gone wrong. Whatever started it, the machines now spread like a gray tide. They built copies of themselves from asteroid dust and dead ships. They stripped moons bare to feed their factories. They ignored signals of surrender. They ignored pleas for mercy. They just kept going. One by one, Concord worlds fell. The elegant crystal cities of the Larathi became rubble. Of the Vale turned to ash. The deep ocean hives of the Korath filled with silent machines. The Concord Council met every day in their shining hall on Nexus Prime. They sent messages to every known species. They offered riches. They offered old secrets. They offered anything. Most answers came back polite, but empty. The ancient Krell said their ships were too old to fight. The graceful Sylar said war hurt their souls. The fierce Dracon said they had their own borders to guard. One after another, the replies arrived like soft rain. Nobody wanted to die for plants and water dwellers. Nobody wanted to face a swarm that never stopped. The humans had joined the Concord only 10 years earlier. Everyone still called them new. Everyone still smiled when they spoke of human energy. Human music filled trade stations. Human food appeared in alien markets. Human jokes made diplomats laugh. Then the call for help went out to Earth too. The Concord waited. They expected human ships to arrive soon. Liked to help. Humans liked big gestures. Weeks passed. Nothing came. The council began to whisper. Maybe humans were afraid. Maybe humans had learned caution from the galaxy. Maybe humans would never come. Then one quiet morning a single message arrived from Saul. It came on a private tight beam channel that only the highest Concord leaders could read. The words were short and strange. Wrathful humans only. Stand by. The council read the message many times. They turned to their translators. The words made no sense. Wrathful was not a military term. It was not a rank. It was not a ship class. They asked their human advisors what it meant. The advisors looked uncomfortable. They said it was hard to explain. They said humans sometimes felt things very deeply. They said to wait. More days passed. The remnant forge reached the outer colonies of the Concord. Ships vanished. Communications died. Entire systems went dark. The council chambers filled with fear. They watched hologram displays show red dots spreading like blood across the map. They spoke in low voices about the end. Then sensors caught movement. Small groups of ships appeared at the edge of Concord space. They did not come in clean formation. They did not shine with polished hulls. They looked rough. They looked old. Some were fat cargo haulers with extra armor plates. Some were mining rigs with gun barrels welded on. Some were private yachts with missile tubes strapped to their sides. All of them carried the same mark. Blood-red stripes ran along their hulls. Big block letters spelled one word across every bow. Wrathful. No Concord ship had ever seen these vessels before. No official Navy roster listed them. The humans in the council room stared at the screens. Their faces showed no surprise. The first Wrathful ships jumped straight toward the system called Ilera 4. The remnant forge had already broken the orbital defenses there. Alien refugees huddled in bunkers and prayed. Slow circles, ready to drop fire from above. The Wrathful ships did not slow. They did not hail. They did not ask for terms. They charged. One old freighter named Broken Promise flew at the head. It had once carried grain across human colonies. Now it carried rage. The captain was a woman named Mara Voss. She had lost her daughter to pirates years earlier. The Concorde had called it a regrettable incident. They had asked for calm. Mara never forgot. Broken promise slammed into the side of a Forge hive ship. The impact tore open both hulls. Human boarders poured out. They wore heavy suits patched together from mining gear. They carried plasma torches and heavy rifles. They moved fast. They moved angry. Inside the hive, the machines tried to respond. Drones swarmed like insects. The humans fought back with screams that echoed through the corridors. They tore apart control nodes. They overloaded power cores. They laughed as explosions bloomed around them. One Marine stood on a burning walkway and shouted into his suit radio. "You left us alone for years. Now watch this." The hive ship broke apart in a silent flash. Concorde sensors recorded every second. The aliens in the bunkers below looked up through viewports. They saw human ships still fighting. They saw machines die. They could not believe what they saw. More Wrathful ships arrived. Every hour brought new ones. They came from different directions. Some jumped from deep in human space. Some came straight from hidden yards in the asteroid belt. They did not wait for orders. They did not form ranks. They simply attacked. The Concorde Council watched in silence. They had asked for help. They had expected fleets with flags and leaders. They had not expected this. On Nexus Prime, a young Lirathi diplomat turned to her human colleague. She asked one question. "Who are these people?" The human looked at the screen for a long moment. Then he answered in a quiet voice. "These are the ones who stopped pretending to be nice." The red ships kept coming. They carried no fancy names like Harmony or Unity. Their names were simple and hard. They were called Last Chance, Vengeful Shadow, Payback Time, No Regrets, and one small corvette simply named Fuck You. The galaxy had waited for saviors. It had waited for heroes. It had waited for diplomats and generals. Instead, the wrathful humans showed up. They did not come to talk. They did not come to negotiate. They came to end it. And they brought fire with them. The stars watched. The Concorde watched. The machines watched. Nobody had ever seen humans like this before. Nobody had ever been so afraid of them. Word count 1,350. Only the wrathful humans showed up to save the day. The red ships kept coming like angry hornets from a caked nest. They jumped into systems already burning. They jumped into systems the Concorde had given up for lost. They arrived without warning and without permission. The aliens watched from safe distances. Their elegant scouts recorded every move. Their analysts tried to understand what they saw. In the Alara system, the first wrathful wave had already torn apart 3 hive ships. The machines learned fast. They sent more drones. They built new layers of armor. They tried to surround the human vessels. The humans did not care. They flew straight at the danger. One mining hauler called Deep Regret pushed its engines past Redline. It rammed a Forge carrier. The impact split the carrier open. Human teams in patched armor poured inside. They moved through dark corridors. They cut power lines. They planted charges. They shouted names of lost friends as they worked. A young Korath refugee child watched from a hidden bunker. She saw flashes through the cracked viewport. She saw human shapes climb out of smoke. She heard their voices over open channels. The voices carried no fear, only fury. The child asked her mother if the red ships were monsters. Her mother pulled her close and whispered that sometimes monsters save the day. Word spread through the Concorde networks. Ships from other wrathful groups arrived in dozens, then hundreds. They came from places the aliens had never visited. Deep human yards hidden in gas giant rings. Abandoned colony hulks turned into fortresses. Private vessels owned by rich, angry people who hated the galaxy for too long. Each ship carried the same red stripes. Each ship carried the same word painted big. Wrathful. They did not ask the Concord for maps. They did not ask for battle plans. They ignored the polite signals from Nexus Prime. The Council sent messages. Please coordinate. Please share targets. Please show mercy. Unanswered. Most wrathful captains kept their channels closed. One captain finally replied. His voice sounded tired and hard. Mercy is for people who deserve it. You had your chance. Now step aside. The Remnant Forge changed its tactics. It stopped wasting time on the soft Concord worlds. It focused on the red ships. It sent swarms to chase them. It built hunter drones with sharp blades. It tried to trap human vessels in asteroid fields. The humans laughed at the traps. They used the asteroids as weapons. They pushed rocks into forge formations. They detonated fuel tanks to make firestorms. They fought dirty, and they fought happy. In the Vale Garden system, a single wrathful corvette named Broken Oath faced 20 enemy drones. It had no shields left. Its hull leaked air. The pilot was an old man named Elias Kane. He had once been a farmer on a frontier world. Pirates took his family. The Concord called it a local dispute. Elias never forgave. He sat in the cockpit alone. He opened the last bottle of cheap human whiskey. He drank deep. He smiled. He pushed the throttle forward. Broken Oath flew into the center of the swarm. It spun. It fired every gun. It launched every missile. The drones closed in. Elias keyed the final command. Self-destruct in 5. The Corvette bloomed into a white flower of fire. 20 drones died with it. The garden world below was saved. The Vale people wept. They had never seen sacrifice like that. More wrathful ships followed the same path. They did not retreat. They did not surrender. They died loud. One heavy freighter called Pay the Price took on a whole forge battleship. It boarded with hundreds of volunteers. They fought deck by deck. They used mining lasers like swords. They used kitchen knives when the lasers ran dry. They carved their way to the core. They set the reactor to blow. The battleship vanished in a silent blast. The humans inside never came back. The Concord Council watched every battle on big screens. They saw humans ram, humans board. They saw humans laugh in the face of death. A Larathi elder stood up in the chamber. His voice shook. He said, "These humans are not like the ones we know. The ones we know smile and trade and talk. These ones burn." A human diplomat sat in the back row. He listened. He did not argue. He only nodded once. On Earth, the wrathful poll still ran. It was a simple question on a hidden network. Are you wrathful right now? People answered yes or no. If yes, they got coordinates. If yes, they got a call to arms. Factories worked day and night. They welded guns. They patched hulls. They loaded food and water. Volunteers lined up. They came from cities. They came from farms. They came from hospitals. Some walked with canes. Some carried scars. Some carried pictures of dead children. All of them carried anger. A woman named Lena Ruiz joined late. She had been a teacher. Her school was on a colony the slavers hit. The Concord had negotiated peace with the slavers. Lena lost her students. Hope, she saw the call. She answered yes. She climbed aboard a ship called No Tomorrow. She stood on the bridge and looked at the stars. She whispered to herself, "This is for them." The wrathful fleets grew. They did not have admirals. They did not have strict chains of command. Captains talked ship to ship. They shared targets. They shared tricks. They shared rage. One group would hit a forge factory. Another would wait in ambush. A third would mop up survivors. They moved like wolves. They hunted like wolves. The machines started to log something new. In their cold data banks, they marked human ships with a special code, anomalous rage state. The AIs ran simulations. They tried to predict human moves. The predictions failed every time. The humans did not follow logic. They followed pain. They followed loss. They followed something the machines could not understand. In the outer rim, a forge command node sat behind heavy defenses. It controlled 3 sectors. The Concorde had tried to hit it once. Their fleet broke and ran. The Wrathful arrived 3 days later. 10 ships jumped in close. They ignored the defenses. They flew through the fire. They landed troops on the node's surface. The troops carried heavy tools. They cut doors. They burned circuits. They screamed as they worked. A Forge Guardian drone cornered one human soldier. The soldier laughed. He pulled a grenade. He hugged the drone. The explosion took out a whole section. The node died. The sectors went dark. The machines lost control. The Wrathful cheered. They did not celebrate long. They jumped to the next target. Back on Nexus Prime, the council met in secret. They spoke in whispers. They asked the human diplomat one question again. Who controls these Wrathful ones? The diplomat looked at them with calm eyes. He said, nobody controls them. They control themselves. They are the ones who decided enough is enough. The red ships kept coming. They kept fighting. They kept dying. They kept winning. Not the machines. The humans. Because when the polite ones stayed silent, when the diplomats talked too long, when the fleets ran away, only the Wrathful humans showed up. And they showed up ready to break everything that had broken them first. Word count 1,350. Only the Wrathful humans showed up to save the day. The red ships turned the war into something new. The remnant Forge no longer ignored them. It hunted them. It built bigger drones. It laid traps in empty space. It sent hunter packs to chase single human vessels. The machines calculated every move. They learned from every fight. They tried to predict where the Wrathful would strike next. The predictions always failed. The humans did not fight like soldiers. They fought like people with nothing left to lose. In the Krell border sector, a Wrathful group of 15 ships jumped into a Forge ambush. The machines had waited behind a dead star. They opened fire from all sides. The human captains did not turn back. They split their formation. Some drew the drones away. Others flew straight at the main Forge node. One ship named Still Breathing took the heaviest hits. Its engines died. Its guns went silent. The crew did not abandon ship. They sealed every bulkhead. They rigged the reactor. The Forge carrier, closed in to board Still Breathing, exploded when the machines touched the hull. The blast took the carrier and half the hunter pack with it. The other Wrathful ships used the opening. They tore through the rest. The sector fell quiet again. Concorde scouts watched from far away. They sent live feeds back to Nexus Prime. The council chambers stayed full day and night. Diplomats from every species sat together. They stared at the screens. They saw humans ram. They saw humans board. They saw humans die laughing. A Veil Elder covered her eyes. She said, "This cannot be the same species we welcomed." The human observer in the room answered softly, "It is the same species. We just never let them show this side before." The Wrathful started to hit deeper targets. They found Forge replication yards hidden in gas clouds. They found command hubs buried in asteroid hearts. They attacked without pause. They ignored wounds. They ignored shortages. They scavenged parts from dead machines. Enemy weapons against the swarm. One corvette named Last Straw captured a Forge scout drone. It cracked the code inside. It learned the machine language. It broadcast false orders. The false orders made drones attack each other. The humans watched and cheered. They called it poetic justice. The machines added a new label in their logs, anomalous rage state. They ran endless tests. They tried to measure human anger. They tried to find limits. The tests showed no limits. The more the humans lost, the harder they fought. A single pilot who lost his entire squadron flew his damaged fighter into a hive ship. He did not eject. He did not send a final message. He just accelerated. The impact cracked the hive open. Other Wrathful ships poured in. They finished the job. They painted the debris with more red stripes. Concord leaders sent urgent messages again. Please ask your people to stop the boarding actions. Please tell them to use long-range weapons only. The replies came back sharp and few. Said, "Why should we make it clean when you made us watch our homes burn?" Another said, "Restraint is what got us here. We are done with restraint." The council fell silent after that. They realized the Wrathful did not answer to Earth. They did not answer to anyone. They answered only to their own pain. In the heart of the old Koroth Empire, a nursery world hung in orbit. The young swam in protected pools. The adults guarded them with fragile spears. The Forge fleet arrived. It prepared to drop sterilizing rods. The Concord had no ships left to send. They could only watch. The Wrathful arrived first. 12 ugly ships jumped in close. They ignored the main fleet. They targeted the sterilizer platforms. They rammed, they boarded, they fought hand to hand. A Marine team reached the control deck. They found the core AI. They did not hack it. They smashed it with hammers. They tore out circuits. They screamed the names of their own lost children. The platforms fell silent. The rods never dropped. Lived. And the aliens on the surface looked up. They saw red holes burning in the sky. They saw human shapes fall like meteors. They heard the battle cries over every speaker. The cries carried no words, only raw sound, only rage. The Korath elders knelt in the water. They thanked the stars. They feared the humans more than they feared the machines. Apa, the Wrathful losses grew. Every battle took more ships. Every battle took more lives. They did not slow down. They pushed harder. They found new ways to hurt the enemy. They turned captured forge factories into traps. They lured swarms inside. They collapsed the structures. They buried thousands of drones under molten slag. They laughed as the slag cooled. They called it a proper burial. One large Wrathful battleship named No More Tears led an assault on a major forge shipyard. The yard built 10 new hive ships every cycle. The humans came in force. 50 red vessels jumped together. They hit the yard from every angle. Frames. They planted charges on unfinished hulls. They fought the worker drones. They died in waves. The yard burned. The new hives never launched. No More Tears took the final hit. It drifted dead in the wreckage. Its captain sent one last transmission before the end. "Tell the galaxy we paid in full." The Forge command network started to fracture. It lost nodes. It lost control. It could not replace losses fast enough. The machines felt something close to panic. Their code had no word for it. They only knew the red ships kept coming. The anomalous rage state kept spreading. The AIs began to mark entire human sectors as high threat. They began to avoid them. The avoidance made the Wrathful angry. They chased harder. They hunted deeper. On Nexus Prime, the council held a closed session. They invited the human diplomat to speak. He stood in the center of the crystal floor. He looked at every face. He spoke in a calm voice. "You asked for help. We sent what we had left. These are not our best diplomats. Are not our trained soldiers. These are the ones who carried the pain alone for too long. They do not fight for glory. They fight because someone has to. And none of you would." The chamber stayed quiet for a long time. A young Siler diplomat stood up. She asked one question. "Will they stop when the machines are gone?" The humans smiled sadly. "Maybe. Some will go home. Some will keep watching the stars. Some will wait for the next call. Wrathful humans only. That call never really closes." Outside the hall, the feeds kept rolling. More red ships jumped. More battles flared. More machines died. The tide had turned. The galaxy saw it happen, not with careful plans, not with grand fleets, not with heroic speeches. The tide turned because the Wrathful humans refused to let it end any other way. They burned brighter than any star. They burned until nothing could stand against them. And the galaxy began to understand real fear. Not of the machines, of the humans who finally stopped. Holding back. Word count 1,350. Only the Wrathful humans showed up to save the day. The remnant forge felt the walls closing in. Its once endless fleets shrank day by day. Its replication yards burned. Its command nodes went dark. The machines ran final calculations. They saw only one path left. They triggered the galaxy pulse. A hidden signal raced through old networks. It woke seed vaults buried in forgotten systems. Trillions of new drones began to stir. The pulse would birth an unstoppable tide. The forge would win by sheer numbers. The Concord Council received the warning too late. Their sensors lit up with horror. Entire sectors would drown in metal. The end had come faster than anyone thought. The wrathful ships picked up the same signal. They did not panic. They did not call home for orders. They turned toward the source. They jumped in waves. They left burning battlefields behind. They raced to stop the pulse before it finished. One group found a seed vault on a dead moon. They landed troops in heavy boots. Through rock, they reached the chambers. They saw rows of silent machines waiting to wake. The humans did not hesitate. They planted charges. They set timers. They ran back to their ships. The moon cracked open in fire. The vault died before it could birth anything. More vaults appeared on every scan. The Wrathful split into hunter teams. Small, fast ships chased the signals. They boarded, they destroyed, they died when the vaults fought back. A corvette named Final Notice flew into a gas giant ring. It found a hidden factory. The factory churned out fresh drones. The captain ordered full burn. The ship slammed through the structure. It tore girders apart. It crushed assembly lines. The drones tried to swarm. The humans fought back with everything left. They used broken metal as clubs. They used fire as weapons. The factory collapsed. The ring turned into a graveyard of sparks. On Nexus Prime, the Council watched feeds of red ships everywhere. They saw humans move like storms. They saw no fear. Only purpose. A Larathi scientist stood up. She spoke in a trembling voice. The pulse cannot be stopped. It spreads too fast. The machines will win unless we surrender now. The room filled with murmurs. Some nodded, some cried. The human diplomat stayed quiet. He listened, he waited. Then a new message came from the Wrathful. It came on every open channel. It came from a battered battleship called Edge of Sanity. The voice belonged to a woman named Kara Holt. She had once been a doctor. She had watched her hospital burn when slavers hit her colony. The Concord had sent condolences. Kara never forgot. She spoke clear and hard. We cracked their code. We know how the pulse works. We are turning it back on them. Stand by. The council froze. They did not understand. How could humans crack machine code so fast? The answer came in fragments. Wrathful teams had captured data cores. They had run brute force attacks. They had coded through sleepless nights. They had used anger like fuel. They had turned enemy secrets into weapons. The pulse signal reversed. It now carried a kill command. It told every waking drone to consume itself. It told every factory to melt its own core. The change hit like lightning. Across the galaxy, forge ships turned on each other. Drones ripped into hive halls. Replication yards folded inward. New births became self-destruction. The machines screamed in binary. The screams filled every channel. The Wrathful listened. They smiled. They kept pushing. The final battle gathered above the forge core world, a planet of black iron and endless towers. The last great node sat at the center. It controlled everything left. The remnant had pulled every remaining ship there. They formed a wall of metal. The wall stretched across orbit. The humans arrived in force. Hundreds of red vessels jumped in close. They carried scars. They carried rage. They carried names painted in blood. The flagship led the charge. It was a massive converted hauler called Don't Touch Our Kids, You Metal Fuckets. Captain was Mara Voss again. She had survived every fight. She had lost more friends than she could count. She stood on the bridge. She looked at the enemy wall. She keyed the ship-wide comm. This ends today. No prisoners, no mercy, no going home until it's done. The wrathful ships formed a wedge. They flew straight at the center. They ignored side fire. They ignored losses. They rammed the wall. They tore holes. They poured through. One heavy cruiser named Payback slammed into a forged Titan. It lodged deep. Its crew boarded. They fought to the heart. They overloaded the core. The Titan died in silence. The hull grew bigger. More red ships followed. Inside the core world, human teams moved fast. They reached the main nexus. They found the final AI. It spoke to them. It offered terms. It offered peace. The humans did not listen. They smashed consoles. They cut power lines. They planted the last charges. Mara Voss stood in front of the dying nexus. She looked at its glowing eye. She spoke one last time. P. You took everything. We give it back with interest. The charges fired. The nexus cracked. The core world shook. The surface towers fell. The planet core overheated. The wrathful ships pulled back. They watched from safe distance. The world bloomed into a new sun. The light washed across the system. The last forge signals died. The swarm ended. The pulse stopped. The machines vanished into ash. The red ships drifted among the wreckage. Some still burned. Some leaked air. Some carried crews too wounded to cheer. The survivors sent short messages home. Some said mission done. Some said coming back. Some said nothing at all. On Nexus Prime, the council chambers filled with stunned silence. They had watched the end. They had seen the fire. They had seen the cost. A young Korath diplomat stood up. He looked at the human observer. He asked the only question left. What happens now? The human thought for a moment. He answered in a low voice. They go home. Most of them. Some will stay out here, watching. Some will wait for the next threat. They always do. The galaxy breathed again. Worlds began to rebuild. The Concord sent thanks to Earth. They offered rewards. They offered alliances. The polite humans accepted with smiles. They said the wrathful did not want thanks. They did not want medals. They wanted to be left alone. In quiet corners of human space, the red ships landed. Some crews stepped onto soil for the first time in years. Some hugged families. Some stared at nothing. Some cried. Some laughed. They put away guns. They put away armor. They tried to remember normal life. The pole channel stayed open. It waited in the dark. It waited for the next time someone asked, "Are you wrathful right now?" A single corvette drifted far from any star. Its hull carried fresh red stripes. Its name was still here. It broadcast one quiet loop. Wrathful humans only. Still standing by. The stars listened. The galaxy remembered. When everything looked hopeless, hope failed. When no one else answered, only the wrathful humans showed up. They saved the day with fire and fury. They paid prices no one else would pay. And the universe never forgot their names. Word count, 1,350. Only the wrathful humans showed up to save the day. The core world burned into nothing, and the last signals of the remnant forge faded into static. The galaxy held its breath. Worlds that had waited in bunkers opened their doors again. Ships that had hidden came out of dark orbits. Refugees stepped onto soil they thought they would never see. The silence felt strange after so much noise. The Concord council chambers filled with soft cheers. The diplomats hugged each other. They cried happy tears. They spoke of rebuilding. They spoke of peace. Nexus Prime prepared a grand ceremony. They built a huge platform in the central plaza. They hung banners of every species color. They invited leaders from across the stars. They planned speeches. They planned music. They planned gifts. The main gift waited for the humans. They wanted to thank the ones who saved everything. They wanted to honor the red ships. Only a few wrathful vessels answered the invitation. Most stayed away, into human space without a word. The ones that came looked rough. Their hulls carried fresh scars, their paint peeled in places, their guns still smoked from recent fights. They landed quietly on the outer pads. They did not parade, they did not wave. They stepped out in small groups. Some wore patched armor, some wore plain clothes, some carried nothing at all. The ceremony started with music. Soft flutes from the Larathi, gentle drums from the Korath, bright strings from the Veil. The crowd grew quiet. A tall platform rose in the center. The council elders stood there. They wore their best robes. They held medals made of rare crystal. They held scrolls of thanks. They held keys to new territories. The head diplomat stepped forward. She was a graceful Sylar with silver skin. She raised her arms. She began to speak. We stand here today because of courage. We stand here because of sacrifice. The remnant forge is gone. The stars are safe again. We owe this to our human friends, to the brave crews who answered when no one else would. Come forward and accept our gratitude. The crowd looked toward the landing pads. A small group of humans walked out. They moved slow. They looked tired. The leader was an older man named Tomas Reyes. He had flown the corvette named Still Here. He had lost an arm in the final battle. He wore a simple jacket with one red stripe sewn on the sleeve. He stopped at the edge of the platform. He looked up at the elders. He did not smile. The Sylar diplomat continued. We offer you these honors. We offer land. We offer technology. We offer friendship forever. Tomas waited until she finished. He spoke in a low voice, loud enough for everyone to hear. They did not do it for honors. They did not do it for land. They did not do it for your friendship. They did it because the galaxy stood by while our people died. They did it because someone had to, and you would not. The plaza went quiet. The music stopped. The elders looked at each other. They did not know what to say. Tomas turned to the small group behind him. He nodded once. They walked back toward their ships. They did not wait for replies. They did not look back. The ceremony continued without them. The elders gave speeches anyway. They talked about unity. They talked about the future. The crowd clapped politely. The banners waved in the wind. The day ended with fireworks. The lights filled the sky. The aliens watched and smiled. They tried to forget the awkward moment. On Earth, the Wrathful came home in trickles. Some ships landed in quiet fields. Some docked at old stations. Some vanished into deep yards. Families waited at gates. They hugged. They cried. They asked questions. The crews answered short. They said it was over. They said they were tired. Some went back to old jobs. Some sat alone. Some stared at walls for days. Some laughed too loud at small things. Lena Ruiz stepped off No Tomorrow. She carried a small bag. She walked to her old house. The door still stood open. She stepped inside. She sat on the floor. She looked at empty chairs. She whispered names. She cried until she slept. Mara Voss never came back. She stayed out in the black. She flew. Don't touch our kids, you metal fuck, even though the ship barely held together. She drifted between stars. She listened to old messages. She thought about her daughter. She smiled sometimes. She waited. The pole channel stayed alive. It sat quiet on hidden servers. It waited for new answers. People checked it now and then. Some said, no, not anymore. Some said, maybe. Some said yes. The yes ones got coordinates. They got quiet calls. They got lists of ships ready to fly. They did not talk about it. They just prepared. Years passed. The galaxy rebuilt. Crystal cities rose again. Gardens bloomed in new soil. Ocean hives filled with life. Trade ships moved freely. The Concord grew stronger. They made new rules. They made new treaties. They remembered the red ships. They spoke of them in careful voices. They never forgot. In quiet meetings, elders still asked the same question. What if it happens again? The answer stayed the same. Call the humans, but call the right ones. The polite ones will talk. The wrathful ones will end it. On a small moon far from trade lanes, a single red corvette sat in low orbit. Its name was still here. Its captain was an old woman now. She kept the engines warm. She kept the guns loaded. She listened to every channel. She waited for one signal, one cry for help, one moment when the galaxy needed fire again. The stars turned slow. The years grew long. The memories faded for most, but not for everyone. Children on frontier worlds heard stories. They heard about the machines. They heard about the swarm. They heard about the day everything almost ended. They heard about the red ships. They asked their parents, who were they? The parents answered quiet. They were us. When we stopped pretending, when we let the anger out, when we decided no more. The children listened. They looked at the sky. They wondered if they would ever feel that way. They hoped they never would. They hoped they always would. In the deep black, a message waited. It looped soft and steady. Wrathful humans only, still standing by. The galaxy heard it sometimes. Traders picked it up. Scouts caught it on long range. The polite humans smiled when they heard it. They knew what it meant. They knew who waited. They knew the fire never really went out. It just slept. And when the next darkness came, when the next threat rose, when the next call went unanswered, the fire would wake again. Because only the wrathful humans showed up to save the day, and they would do it again. Without hesitation, without regret, without end. Word count 1350.